invasive species monopod.
You missed all that.
We're still waiting to hear if we have received that grant.
If you get an individual stamp, where do you put it?
Oh, and the port side.
No, you don't put it on your boat.
Yes, you can put on your
No, it's
boat.
only if you have option 2, you put it in your boat. First one, you can use that.
It's displayed
If you
on the
drive with the
license.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
supposed to be on
I
your,
have both.
the safe boating.
It says
safe
sportsman's
boating license.
conservation license.
Yeah, that's your safe boating.
If you're fishing or
You
hunting.
print it every year? You gotta show that at the launch to get your sticker.
I don't print it every year.
What, my license?
Your safe boating certificate.
My safe boating certificates from. Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
But I don't print it.
So, okay, well, okay,
More to come.
it sounds like there's more to come on this and more to be interpreted. I think for us, that we could leave on the agenda as open business is, or I guess new business, would be to clarify this AIS stamp and who enforces it.
And should we or should we not?
Well, that's what I mean, who enforces it, does Lake Patrol enforce it, is it enforced at the gates?
It's gonna be, but
How are you? I'm sorry I came late to this conversation. It was on my list to raise this new business tonight. We've already dove into it. So what they've done here is they've taken this out of when you pay for your registration, for your decal for your boat. They've separated it now, and now we have to pay separately to get the stamp, which as you've all been discussing, you can either get an individual for what, $7,
Yeah.
or I already got mine for the boat, the decal for the boat, because we have more than one person that drives our boat, so. I think it's pretty clear, what the requirements are. The question is, and it seemed to me that the logical way to tackle this would be when Marine Patrol, when boats are launched, when Marine Patrol inspects them, they have to add this to their list of things to look for, which would mean either having the decal on the boat or having the person who's driving show them that they have the stamp on their license. The problem will be, of course, do we do anything once the boat's on the lake? Because I think frankly, what a lot of people are gonna do is they're gonna buy the $7 stamp. And that's gonna be the end of it. So if people have, like our family, multiple drivers of boats, I think the question would be, do we wanna go looking for that? And that seems like
I
a
think
lot
that's,
of
yeah.
work.
Well,
That's crazy.
well, that's why, I guess that was part of my question is it our charge or even our purview to be even dealing this or, you know, I mean, like,
Right.
is it the town's responsibility to
It's
enforce
a
it?
legal requirement.
Right.
Well,
It's illegal for the state of Connecticut to have a boat, it's very clear. If your boat requires a registration, you must have a
Stick
stamp,
on the boat or stamp on the wall.
yeah, must have. So I don't think it's optional to enforce it.
yeah, I just.
Okay,
wanna-
so it would fall under, the same requirement that we're asking everyone to show proof of registration.
Exactly,
So it's the same.
exactly.
Would be
it's the
there,
same.
it's the same thing.
And
Or,
it's,
and as an individual, a
But I
voting
think-
license.
But I think the question was, like say I buy a single, cause I have more than one boat, I'm not gonna buy. For all my different boats, and that'd be 3, 4, 5 boats. And $25 for each, I'd buy a single, and I
Yeah.
could drive any one of them,
right,
because I have a sticker.
because you can
But the
show,
question's gonna be, I put that on the lake, are we gonna have the boat patrol stop people out there and check their stickers? If there's not a sticker on the boat.
I
you're
don't
gonna have to
suggest
check
that
it.
we do,
I
I think,
couldn't agree
I've
more.
been thinking about this for a while, because when the email came to CLA, I wanted to make sure I understood it before we sent it out to our membership,
Yeah.
and it took me a little bit to digest it. I mean, I think what would be reasonable. This is, again, just how I've been thinking about it, is at launch, when
That
they're
makes sense.
already inspecting the boat, they should be looking to see if you have a current registration.
License.
They also look to see if you have either the decal on your boat or the stamp on your license.
Right.
And then I think we see how this whole thing evolves
I
and,
agree with that.
you know, I guess, yeah, I mean, I think it would be. And it's not like the lake patrol, sometimes when they're sitting out there, couldn't use something to do, but to just go after people and ask to see their stamp would be kind of pointless.
But it could be a part of the normal, if someone's getting pulled over, you could ask
Then you
for
can
it,
say,
or
hey,
something out, right? They
What is
would
your
ask,
stamp?
they would ask for the boating license, they would ask for that.
Exactly.
Okay, so,
As ambassadors to the lake, the Marine Patrol can.
But that's just how I was thinking about it,
Yeah.
because we're already doing those inspections anyway.
Well, no, that would be the time to do it, but I think harmless to try to stop people to check things.
well,
That's not.
yeah, but I think everybody's in agreement.
Yeah.
That, so, do you need? Does the
I
town
got
need?
what I need.
All right, then
Because it's not-
I'll just be over here and I'll be quiet.
It's not your rule, it's a state rule, so.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
We just need to
So what I
we
was
need to
going to
train the
say
Marine Patrol.
was,
Did you go?
you need us to give you a
Sure, some
recommendation.
discretional advice would be.
Well, I just, I'm not gonna, step where I'm not.
If I may, as advice, what was that, discretion?
Discretional advice.
Discretional advice.
We are in the midst of starting to draft a new town ordinance related to the launch of boats on the lake. Henry is away, but when we get him back and work with you and Rob Roberts, we could include this. And it's up to the Board of Selectmen to accept that and then have the public hearing and all that stuff, so.
Henry would like us to get a jump on it with,
Yeah.
with Robert's helping out.
I know, I'm there. I have one more thing to.
Okay.
I don't know that it needs to be codified, sorry, Craig, but I don't. If we need to be that prescriptive in the ordinances, but certainly in the training of Marine Patrol, that should be added to the plate of, they're checking registration, they're checking. Fire extinguishers and all the other
Lights.
things they look for.
But if they're doing that inspection, should we include a sentence to say you should at least alert voters that they have to have?
We'll be handing this out, with the checklist.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, can I just add, I just, on here, there's one of those QR codes.
Yeah, back.
And I just went on there because every year I go on the state to get my 2025 conservation ID number, right, which is supposed to be required for launching the boat. At the launch, but anyway, what I wanted to see is there now a new thing that when you're doing that, it says, okay, now you have to either buy the $7 or the $25.
That's how I got the decal.
Yeah,
Craig,
but it doesn't do
scanned
that.
it. Oh, I
You
see.
can just go in and get your 2025 conservation ID, and then it doesn't even warn you. About it, it's just another, hey, do you wanna buy a license, a hunting license, a deer license, trapping, or boating?
Oh,
So
right.
you gotta go into boating, then pick the one you want, and then buy it, so it's not smooth, so we should be very tolerant. Make people aware this is a state fund, not a local fund, and be nice about it.
You mean, a
People
bit
are,
understanding in the beginning, I
Yeah.
guess.
at least
Fair
year
enough.
one.
Fair enough.
Well, it'd be interesting to find out as people launch their boats, what their awareness is about this. Do they come with a stamp in hand?
Well, maybe we should be
Yeah,
handing
maybe
this
we
out
say-
to them too.
Well, so yes, I mean, that was part of the point of sending this out to the DLA membership was to advertise.
Yeah, I read it, it was very well.
A new requirement, but we could also, at the time of launch, if they're not aware of it, give them grace period prior to, 2 weeks or a month or whatever makes sense to, to go purchase the stamp.
Yeah.
And then maybe Marine Patrol could follow up with those particular boats.
We'll just need to
make sure everybody's aware it's a state fund, not
Yeah.
CLA or
Right.
Town of Columbia.
Right.
It's not an ordinance.
Right.
Okay, so we'll just do this new business, and, revisit it next meeting. Okay, all right, any other communications? Okay. Permit review, do we have any permits to discuss?
I'm not, you have to review.
Well, I wasn't here, when was that, January, but in reading the minutes of January, the minutes say, since some of the descriptions of the repairs for 17 Sleepy Hollow, Michael Dobish application have changed, it was suggested Mr. Dobish update the permit and resubmit it before the February meeting. I have no resubmission.
So I was,
Submitted the initial.
right, but when we met the last time, you had noted that you had made a couple of tweaks to the application. And we told you you needed to resubmit it with whatever those changes were.
Thank you. So, no,
That was very clear.
The original permit that was denied. The permit,
When was the last time you submitted
before the last meeting.
You held up a triangle and you
Yeah, I
said
got my
something
triangle.
about there's some little add-on to
I
something.
have a little handout.
Right.
Well, wait a minute, I just wanna clarify, I'm sorry, just. At this time, so you submitted just prior to the January meeting, an application.
Right.
Then there were changes that were made to that
No,
design.
no, that application was accurate. Different from the application that was denied. There were some changes from the application that was denied in September.
so
Do you have a copy of the last application that
The last
was?
one I did.
can I make a suggestion?
Yeah,
As I read the minutes, I did not reach out to Mr. Dobush as we were working on other LMAC items. It says resubmit before February. If there is a different application that was resubmitted 2 days before the January meeting, I'm aware of that application, but the LMAC subcommittee has not done any research and not done any site visits. So we're not prepared to discuss this tonight.
okay, so I
We'll
guess
have
it
to
sounds
do
like,
this
there was some confusion about which generation of application. Your assumption was that the application that you made a few days before the January meeting was active, when in fact you hadn't even reviewed it yet, because you hadn't had the time, obviously.
Well,
And-
as soon as I got
and it
these
was-
minutes, I
Yeah.
couldn't.
Yes,
Yeah.
no, I'm just gonna clarify the
Yeah.
other side, which is. So there was an application submitted, obviously not in time for any review by the subcommittee, because it was only a few days before the meeting. And then where there was discussion about that application at the January meeting, right? Is that how I'm understanding it?
Correct,
And
yeah,
per the meeting minutes, there was a request to resubmit the application, because there was an understanding, and maybe it was a misunderstanding, that there were some changes, but I think the context of that was that we thought there were changes to what you had just submitted. And obviously, what you're saying now is that the changes were made from the original to what you had submitted. I got that right?
yeah.
Okay, so with that said, I apologize for the misunderstanding, but it's, we just would need to then take action as the subcommittee needs to take action at this point to review it and get back to you on any questions and or
Correct.
site visit.
Correct.
And I add some additional information.
You can,
If you want to give it to the subcommittee.
subcommittee, you can, yeah, you can do that.
I'll just give you what I'm not sure who is on the subcommittee. and who-
Myself and Jim Santos.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So, subcommittee will be in touch about the now current application as we understand it, and we'll take action on that. All right?
Yeah, there's
Great.
3 different things we have to look at.
Yeah, fair enough. I think we're clear now.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other permits?
No.
No, okay. Planning and zoning coordination, anything there?
Oh,
No?
I don't think involving the lake. Savannah? In your subcommittee, in your planning zoning subcommittee, you haven't made any, you're not working on any regulations that might affect the lake at this moment, have you?
Well, the only thing that we're working on that could affect the lake are the size of structures that would basically be allowed to have half the setback. So planning and zoning is trying to increase the size. It's currently at 120 square feet for a shed. So you could effectively have, instead of like a 25-foot standard setback, you could have 12.5 feet from the sideline. They want to increase the 120 square foot to hopefully 200 square feet. Does that make
That
sense?
would be townwide, including the lake?
It would be, yeah. This discussion was kind of the reason why I wanted to relook at the nutrient allocation plan as it is, and redo those numbers. I do think it's a valid point because sheds tend to be larger than 120 square feet, and that's kind of what the allotment is set for, to allow people to put a shed on their property without jumping through a million hoops. They'd still potentially have to do something for the nutrient allocation plan. We might work that in. But it would modify that setback potentially.
would this be for non-conforming as well as conforming lots?
Yeah, it would apply to all. Yep.
Oh, because there's so many small non-conforming lots on there. Like,
Yeah, so the non-conforming lots have different setbacks, obviously. So if like say a non-conforming lot had a 15-foot setback, that could be reduced to 7.5 as it stands now for something that's 120 square feet in size. And the modification would increase that to 200.
So as you hone that change in, would you make sure that this committee is made aware of it, Savannah?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great.
And it hasn't been presented for vote yet. But I do think it's coming up shortly. So I will send an email out. It may even be at the next meeting and let you know when it's coming up for vote.
is this done by planning and zoning?
It's a planning zoning subcommittee looking at all regs.
Okay, because Bob Powell is on LMAC and planning and zoning, correct?
Right, so he would ultimately vote on the changes, but Bob Powell's not on the subcommittee recommending changes to the full
But
board.
at least he could be our liaison to communicate. If you would work with Bob Powell,
Yeah.
that would be.
He'll be at the planning and zoning meetings too, yeah.
And
Awesome, thank you.
Shed, oh, okay, so it's a setback for any structure.
It's a setback for any structure, but they're also increasing the size of a shed before you have to pull a permit? Or is it before you have to pull a?
All it would do, you'd still have to, yeah, you'd
Wait.
still need to pull a permit. It would just reduce the setback on the side by 50%. So in the zoning
Okay.
regs, if it says you have a side setback of 25, you'd only have to meet 12.5. Or
Is that
something
just
200
from
square
lake
feet.
or all the property edge?
Yeah.
Is that from the lake?
That's a little bit of a hot button topic on the lake, because when you, and we actually did have an issue with a neighbor in a shed, so. Setbacks matter, with sight lines and other things, so that's not trivial change.
Hmm.
And that,
For a lake property.
we do have other planning and zoning where the lake would be exempt from certain things. Do we not already on the books? My memory is failing me, but I thought we went through that.
I'm trying to think of any lake specific exemptions, and I can't, if anything, like there are more hoops to jump through if you're on a lake property. Just because of the nutrient allocation plan. So I'm not sure about exemptions. I haven't come across any.
I could be wrong.
So
it could
even
be
if this
certain-
passes and it reduces that setback, for a structure up to 200. So currently as it stands, it's already a 120-foot structure. You can still get half a setback. So this is adding 80 square feet, right? You still have to go through zoning, you have to go through the permitting process, and zoning, I can still look at the permit and say, okay, are they mitigating the runoff into the lake with this structure? It's up to my discretion. So there is that opening there to come in and say, you know, they need to add some drainage features or something like that to mitigate.
Hmm.
But
Does that
I'll keep you all
also
posted.
require wetlands review? That
It
would
will still
require.
require wetlands, yeah, that's not my purview, but yeah, it would need wetlands review, of course. Mhm.
So right now you can put a 120 square foot shed 12 feet from the lake.
So that, I was referencing a side setback, but the front and rear setbacks are different. So like the lake would be a front or rear setback. Those are generally larger. So on a standard lot size, that's 50 feet. So the half setback for that would be 25. I don't know all the non-conforming lots setbacks off the top of my head, but they are bigger than that 25-foot side.
Thanks, Savannah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is the dam status. So it sent the gate logs over.
The gate logs are out.
Yeah.
It did close a few weeks back,
Yep.
and the lake is very frozen. We're all out there today. I
My
was
son
out
was out there
there.
riding his bike on it.
Oh, is that Jim?
Yeah, yeah.
Who does it?
My son put studded ice tires on it. Yeah,
I heard somebody was riding a bike on a lake.
saw him go by.
that was him. Yeah.
From a lake level point of view, we're right where we should be.
I saw that, yeah.
-5, 6 is right where we should be.
It looks like everybody's having fun.
Yeah, lots of ice fishermen, skaters, it's
I taught
awesome.
my little grandson, he's got his first hockey skates, so 3 years old, we were out.
We have,
Nice.
we have a huge.
That's how, did you get the chair?
Yeah, he's doing the chair.
Chair.
Doing the chair. Got a little hockey stick.
Little
His
milk-
dad's a big hockey
No
player.
box, yeah.
That's fantastic.
It's nice to see.
He started.
Fun.
Okay, so no adjustments at this point, or seem to be in good shape.
In good shape.
Okay.
Yeah, just.
All right, dam emergency plan,
Nothing.
nothing there. Water quality.
When do you want to discuss the budget?
We can discuss it
How about
now
the
or in the
report?
budget.
How about the report? The TRC report.
Yeah, that's what I mean, the TRC report,
We're gonna talk about the report or the budget?
well, you can talk about both. She has a CLA thing.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we can come, obviously, there's no things related.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we start with the report, and then we can get into the budget. After, you know, as I said.
So I thought the report was well written and comprehensive, but my takeaway after reading it, I didn't read, I read the report itself, not only appendices, of course, but 600 pages. My takeaway is we're in a situation where we're developing more of a problem with phosphorus over time, which shouldn't surprise any of us, given the age of the lake and all of that. And there's things that we can do to be a little bit more proactive about the lake. So, and I think the proposal that we got, and I think Mary was specifically asked, what are the, you know, the must-haves and the nice-to-haves, but
Need versus nice.
I hope that we can find the dollars, because I think in the end, these are small dollars to spend to help keep us out in front of the evolution of the lake. I think we all, in the end, share the same concern about invasive species. And the other day, Mary and I were talking to the fellows, the president of the Friends of Bolton Lake. And they have seen hydrilla
Mm.
already. And they were able to get after it right away as soon as they saw it, and they think they dealt with that. He thinks, and I tend to agree with him, that it's inevitable that we will see hydrilla on all of the inland lakes in the state, because it's spreading so readily and rapidly. We all know we're one contaminated boat away from having a problem, so.
Bird. Or bird, a lot of times it's
Oh,
past
Yeah,
birds.
yeah.
It could be,
Yeah.
but the eagles, they eat one.
Yeah, they fly away and they drop.
But I think there's two issues, I think, obviously invasive species, and the town ordinance launch is speaking to that, which is, under development, so we'll discuss it next March, but the other issue is the growing phosphorus load in the lake. And if you look at their proposal from the annual report, there are neat base proposals. What we've always asked our consultants to do, whether it be Portman, right on up to Carl Nielsen and TRC now. And then they're recommending some things. And, for the base stuff, with lab tests, we're gonna go from approximately, what was it, 21,000 last year to 26,000 to do the base stuff, which is surface water quality, aquatic plant mapping, and consulting time to prepare these reports, as well as ad hoc consulting, which we have used Carl, not only this committee, but Steve Everett and Mark on occasion also have spoken with Carl. So I think, I don't know how we wanna divvy this up in terms of the budget. They did a cost by task, which was emailed to everyone. My hope is we at least discussed and approved the base tonight, for it with advice to the BOS to approve it. And then I think we have to start to say, what do we do to minimize phosphorus coming into this lake, and or to mitigate the phosphorus that's already in this lake? Yeah, I know, Mike, you had sticker shock when you saw, what does that look like? Can we spend an additional $25,000 to try to mitigate stormwater drainage and figure out what to do? Which are what is being recommended. But I was really kind of shocked when I asked him to follow up. When should we consider alum? And he said, if it were my lake, I'd start this year.
Yeah.
That's a $70,000
Yeah.
perhaps to. $400,000. It depends on how bad the algae gets and how bad the phosphorus gets, et cetera.
Yeah.
So, I think we have the base recommendation, yeah, we're gonna do the water quality, et cetera. And we have all the expenses and labor to that. But what do we wanna do to not have to have alum treatments that are gonna cost, high 5 figures into high 6-figure types of things? Now, if you did an alum treatment for $70,000, you mitigate for 2 to 3 years the phosphorus. If you did it for 400,000, you'd probably have that for more like 20+ years in terms of mitigating or keeping the phosphorus level where it's at, which was in his recommendations when he said it that. I throw it out to the committee. Do we want to continue the base, which is the standard water quality, plant mapping, consulting, and the preparation reports, plus all the lab tests? And B, what else do we want to do? And we have an E. coli.
I was gonna say, I think we at least need to understand that E. coli
Yeah.
contamination.
And we do have an E. coli issue coming out of the stormwater, which he now is suggesting probably is a faulty septic system. That could become really, that's a third issue or a different issue than phosphorus, but I'm sorry.
Isn't it related though? Waste, human waste, animal waste turns into phosphorus.
Oh, of course, it's
Yeah.
part of,
Right,
6
so
or
it's not
7 or
just
8
E.
things.
coli, because what I was gonna say is, the water level's down.
Mhm.
And we have an opportunity with the water level down to do some soil samples around the lake
Mhm.
in front of particular
Different-
areas that they've
different areas.
identified,
Right.
you know, trouble spots.
Related to phosphorus or?
Yeah, or the E.
Soil?
coli,
E.
both,
coli,
right?
Okay.
You know, if we can identify bad septic systems, is that part of?
Well, part of that is called sediment sampling to determine how much phosphorus is in areas. We know in the
Okay.
deepest part of the lake, that's worse now.
Yeah, but don't they have to get the soil or the?
Right, but they go down and grab it. They grab that with a instrument.
All
out
right,
of
so
the
we don't
boat.
have to do it.
You don't have to be on the drill down, which is,
I just thought it'd be easier.
no.
Okay.
I mean, if you get it right at certain drains, perhaps I can ask Carl that. But we already know from the report that the deep base has the most phosphorus.
I'm not more around the homeowners.
Yeah.
No.
What does the committee want to do in terms of, should we recommend the whole ball of wax, which is a $50,000 recommendation? Or do we go with part of that, some of that, plus the typical base? The typical base is a $26,000 investment. That's our usual every year, and you're gonna see incremental increases as we have.
The full thing is 50?
And the additional testing that they're recommending in terms of testing for stormwater runoff, bacteria to identify phosphorus and where it's coming from most. Bacterial source, the E. coli, which we know is coming from one or two drains in particular, but one's off the charts in terms of being over. And then stormwater infrastructure investigation, which would be working with DPW to identify all our stormwater drains. And then he's recommending, and he says this is a need. And I'm, excuse me, I'm familiar with this term, bathymetric mapping, which typically every lake they work with, they know the exact depth in 100 different points, and they go around, I think it's every 2 feet, and measure the depth, which makes a huge difference in terms of where's this phosphorus and how can it be treated.
Right.
And we don't have that at Columbia Lake.
But that's a one-time expense.
It's a one-time.
I mean,
I thought they'd have to do that every year to
No.
see how it was growing. Oh, no, that's.
No.
Yeah.
That's something different.
I mean, it will change over time because more sediment collecting, but it won't change.
Yeah.
Relatively speaking, I mean, the deepest part is still gonna be the deepest part of the lake.
So, I mean, I understand an incremental change, but I mean, they went up 25% from 21,000 to 26,000.
I need to check that to make sure that's accurate, because I think the 21 was only TRC without lab cost.
Okay, I just wanna make sure that
So I think
the
it's an
scope is-
apples to oranges comparison, because the lab test is not.
okay, so, all right, so let's,
You just gave me something I haven't even reviewed
Additional
yet.
5.
Yeah, so what
that
were
was, okay, so it was not, the scope was, even though
I
it's
think
still
it's-
the base scope,
yeah,
the scope was increased, so it wasn't just an increase in the cost.
Well, I think it's because you're doing a lot more lab analysis, more sampling
correct.
than previously.
Because of the algae issues. We had algae, we had algae.
Yeah.
And that is the most expensive lab, and it's a FedEx out to the state of Washington. There's only 2 states, I think, in the nation that do it and turn it around for us to understand the safety issues.
Mhm,
If we have to close a section of the lake
Yeah.
or something.
understood.
So I'll get the apples to apples, Mike,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm pretty sure Jennifer can provide that to me tomorrow, and I'll email everybody. I'm pretty sure it's balanced in terms of about the same amount as last year.
Board of Selectmen requested that once LMAC decides what they want to recommend, that they come to either the Board of Selectmen workshop on the 11th or the 18th
So you want us to come and make recommendations?
to the
Okay,
board for the increase in your budget request.
so we'd have to, when is that?
the 11th, which is next Tuesday, or the 18th, which is 2 Tuesdays away?
Well, it'll have to be the
Yeah,
18th.
the game.
Yeah, the game.
Cause we have to first decide what we're gonna recommend, right?
Well, what are we-
With the full, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so why wouldn't, sorry, Timmy, I didn't mean to cut you off. Why would we not want to spend the full Monte again? If you look at the larger picture, 50 grand to help protect our lake. And give us better information to continue to do that, just seems like a no-brainer to me.
Well, and again, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I mean, do we already know enough to start to consider things like, you know, phosphorus mitigation,
I agree.
E. coli mitigation,
Mhm.
you know, stormwater drainage, you know, I mean, if we were gonna spend an extra $25,000, should we start to think about spending that money or requesting that money plus more, or at least start to save, you know, to ask for, okay, we need to start to save up, you know, budget for, we know that we're gonna have potentially a $70,000 spend, or, you know, not sure how we deal with the E. coli or the stormwater and how that gets funneled in, but do we know enough already? And can we go with the base scope and spend?
The thing that
That's, sorry, that's a good theory.
No, it's a
But-
very fair question. If you read his proposal, he's saying we have to do sediment testing to tell you how much phosphorus
Yeah,
or alum you need, as an example, task 170. So we'd have to go through each task and say,
Yeah.
absolute need, or, you know, it's.
I mean, we know for a fact that phosphorus is growing, right? I mean,
Yes.
that report says, and this has been about the largest jump we've had in, at least with the information that we have to date. This is the largest jump we've ever had. Seems to me that, you know, and again, I know you're not saying not to do it, but, you know, it's money well spent to be able to know where to focus that money to get the biggest bang on it, because we're not gonna get the $400,000 and do the entire lake. I know that for a fact, or I would assume that. So if we're gonna spend X amount of money, let's spend a little bit more to know that what we're focusing on does give us that biggest bang. That's all my point would be.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, you know, Iridoni runoff is bad. So I would like to know, what do we need to spend to work on that? How do we figure out how to clean it or do something different other than just doing a lot more tests?
Are you speaking to the E. coli issue?
Yeah.
Yes, they want to, I have to go back and remind myself what Carl said.
You wanna show the camera?
They want to send a camera up. Because to inspect where the heck is this E. coli coming from? They believe it may be a.
But there's also a farm up the hill.
Yeah,
There is a farm up the hill.
But it also seems to me that E. coli should be kind of a carve out, because that's a specific health issue, that's what I mean? So I don't think we should combine E. coli, you know, issues with phosphorus that are a natural occurring event. Of course, can be exacerbated by humans, but it's a natural occurrence. So I would kind of think that we could make the case that this E. coli issue is separate. You know what I mean, fund us for the phosphorus and however we all decide. And but the E. coli is a separate issue, it's a safety issue that we need to get a handle on. And then, you know, figure out how to solve it, because if it is a septic system, that's a pretty easy fix, once we find out who it is. I mean, if it's a farm, then it's a little bit more involved, because now we gotta figure out, you know, we can't stop the farmer, but we can figure out how that's getting through the soils and how it's migrating and that kind of thing, and maybe we can figure out some kind of
Well,
dam
thanks.
effect.
I agree, Jim. It's a separate issue, and I think we have to be very careful not to hide under the guise of Eastern Highlands says we don't have to do this. This is, you know, this is the first time Carl has said in 2 years, we have all the data. that E. coli has been up to 5 times higher than what is legislated, what the state says.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, specific to a farm, this drain does not have a drain coming directly, it could be indirect, but directly from the farm across the street. I'm very familiar, as you are, with that farm.
That's not the farm I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's the farm.
No, not our farm.
We're right across the street, dear.
There's
Yeah,
two-
but
there's
we
two
don't, we
runoffs,
don't,
though.
we
One
don't
down
grow
by
anything
the
or
beet field.
fertilize.
That's why I'm
I'm
saying,
saying there's a farm up the hill that has horses and horse manure, and that's water comes downhill.
Down
That's-
the other.
that's
the other
Utley
side.
Pond, and that's a little different. That's
But-
not the drain.
But that's the point of doing the genetic testing on the E. coli, to figure out if it's animal or human.
Right,
So that, which I,
yeah.
again.
But I think it should be as
part of
a
that.
separate health issue.
So, that's
And,
what
and
I,
I think we have to be very careful and talk to Eastern to say, if the septic system goes, then we're in trouble. Because that can really, that whole Buell's Cove could be then contaminated.
right,
I think we have to be cognizant of that as a health issue. And I would concur, we should probably carve that out and say that's a separate issue. The others, other than subtask 1A, resident education. I like the concept. I don't think we have to have TRC create a brochure for us.
we can do
Okay.
that.
That's nice, all right? And we can do it, or we can outsource it for a lot less money. And try, I mean, we've been saying for 3 years, we want a welcome package, and nobody has had the time to get to it. So we could outsource that. But when it comes to the others, in terms of, when I asked Carl, subtask 1.7, we need to know what sediment has the most phosphorus. What was the other one? Oh, the bathymetric mapping, if I'm saying that right, is a map to accurately assess the internal nutrient loading and understand the area of the lake that's impacted by low oxygen. We know there's low oxygen in the deepest part of this lake, and that could contaminate or be a problem with fish in the long run. So I would suggest if you carve out health, the stormwater runoff, the stormwater, excuse me, the sediment for alum and the bathymetric, we should be doing. The other issue becomes, what should we do with what's coming in the lake in the major stormwater, which is basically Utley Pond. I mean, Carl said in his annual report, the vast majority of this is probably coming from Utley. Should we continue to figure out, can we do something to limit what's coming into the lake? And that's what he's, wrote is recommended, but in his email, when I asked all those questions. What was his answer? I apologize, I haven't read this since last week. I think he's suggesting that at least we do the bathymetric and the stormwater runoff. He actually said bacterial is nice, but again, it's not his health issue. He knows it's an Eastern Highlands health issue, so. What do you wanna do? Shall we do a base and then a recommended, and here's the rationale for the recommended because of the growing phosphorus load, and be specific to that? And the E. coli be totally separate?
I mean, I think we should separate the E. coli. But if we do a base and then what we would like to see, they're only gonna give us the base. I think we should make a recommendation, what we think is
Go for
what we
the
need, yeah.
full enchilada.
And put a justification for what we're asking for.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and we have part of the justification in his
I think
proposal.
it's right there, yeah.
And in his annual report, it's narrowing it down for your committee, Mark, to understand. This is, you know, an ounce of prevention versus a pound of cure.
We haven't asked for a ton of money for this lake. I mean, we've done a lot over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
With almost nothing.
I agree.
So it's not like we keep going back to the well here and, you know, if we can
The
make.
lake is aging.
But
And,
it's-
you know, can we keep it from aging quickly is where we're at now.
Yeah, we don't wanna look at that $400,000 treatment.
The more you say ounce of prevention.
Yeah.
Right, I think you see the two numbers.
Yeah.
And where we're gonna be. I agree.
Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I think that now is not the time to be shortcutting this. I think we just also need to be very cognizant of the fact that, the news may not be good, and it may not lead, to less spending, it may lead to more spending. But we're talking about mitigating catastrophe, from the lake water quality, so that's, and I agree that, I mean. If we really have to, trim something out, that would be, the educational brochure,
Yeah, that's,
so,
and then carve out health is a distinct difference.
what's that?
Carve out the health issue is a distinct.
Oh, yes,
Right,
yes,
because hopefully that's gonna be a one-time deal, we'll figure it out, and then it's gonna be fixed, and it's off the table.
yeah,
Recurring thing.
yeah,
Okay.
so,
I'm sorry, motion?
yes, I was, well, I was gonna go where you were going, but.
I was just gonna say, I can do it after the motion if you prefer, that, do we want to distribute, not the report itself, it's dense, but a summary of the findings broadly? To CLA members, to the town, we could write something up for Columbia Views, or for the monthly email to start to educate people on, what we're finding when we do these examinations and some of the threats to
I
the
would
lake.
definitely need your outline, shortened version of your recommendation for what I pre-send to the board of selectmen.
Say again, you,
So what your recommendation is in a short outline of benefit and cost. I usually send that to the board of selectmen the Friday before the 18th.
the 18th, okay.
So the 18th is Tuesday, 17th Monday, 16th, so on the 14th of February. 14th or 15th.
Where we gonna be, okay. Okay, this is a volunteer position.
Basically, we'll cut and paste from the proposal. Yeah.
No Valentine's Day for you.
We're gonna give you a raise.
0 times.
Yes, I'm gonna double
This
your
is a
pay.
very valuable vote, Keith.
Yeah, thank you for this. All right, yes, we can do a short summary. Very,
And then we just need to modify whatever your motion
Aye.
includes for the final amount.
Yeah, let's hear what the motion is.
and the motion being? Ready? Oh, I don't know. I recommend LMAC advise the Board of Selectmen to accept the following task to be completed in the fiscal year of 2024 to 2025.
25, 26.
Oh, 26, whatever, related to the health of Columbia Lake. And then in that, we can put the base, surface water quality, aquatic plant mapping, consulting time, ad hoc consulting. In addition, what we will also recommend is the appropriate testing for stormwater runoff, stormwater infrastructure investigation, bathymetric mapping, and sediment sampling for an algae treatment. Which are tasks 1, 2, 1, 4, 1, 6, and 1, 7 of the TRC proposal.
Also included with 1, 1 and 1, 5.
Yeah.
Then we're not gonna go the next step of recommending a treatment.
I'm not convinced yet, even though if it's Carl's Lake, obviously, that we're in need of an algae treatment until we do the bathymetric and until we get the sediment sampling to say, where would we even do this?
Okay,
I would not be recommending algae treatment for this annual budget. That's my bias.
That makes sense.
And that's $70,000 for an alum treatment
well, no, it's.
If you want it-
Ranges.
Yeah, if you
to
wanna,
400.
if you wanna minimize phosphorus for 2 to 3 years,
I wrote 70,000, 400 for 20.
if you wanna minimize it for probably a couple decades, 400,000. And he's saying, he's basing this, as a guesstimate because he doesn't have the metric mapping. So we need this mapping, and the vast majority of lakes in Columbia have it. I can find it online, never could find it for us. You know, we always say we average 15 feet or 16 or 17, depending on what you read.
Correct.
And we need to understand exactly.
I think though that maybe we should make the town aware of these two figures, 70,000 for possibly 2 and 400,000 for 20. I think they need to hear some numbers so that they understand why we're trying to do this, so that we can,
It's the ounce of prevention versus.
yeah, I really think.
Yeah, I agree. Seriously.
Start the bake sale.
All right, so we have a second, any further discussion?
Well, you didn't talk about E. coli, and that needs to be.
Well, I think that should be a separate motion.
Yeah.
Oh, separate motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would suggest.
Yes. Okay, any further discussion? All in
Just
favor?
that, wait, I'm sorry. So are we gonna, in that, are we gonna talk about the following year, depending on the mapping, there could be costs that could range from.
Well, that's what I was
Yeah.
saying before, is that,
Yeah.
So, but we would say that in that,
We should alert the town to
right,
that.
to know
yeah.
that in
And-
2 years.
And Mike will be presenting this on the 18th, with some assistance.
Well, I think that was exactly my suggestion, was that we alert them to
I
what's
think that's-
coming.
Yeah, so that'll be in it then.
And I think we have to.
I think that makes sense.
We're at a point
That's what
where
I said.
the load is
No,
gonna,
I agree, but I didn't hear it. That's why I brought it up.
and there's a solution. That's the difference.
By the way, you guys, you need to use me as bad cop, because they hate me already. So, when you go to the town asking for money, I'll sit in the background. I'll be there to support, but, we're gonna need it.
Where's Henry? Where's Henry?
Yeah, exactly, see, Henry's the guy to. All right,
Is he back by the 18th?
any further, I'm not sure.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Any,
You said the
any,
beginning of March.
any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved. All right, separate motion.
Over the past 2 years, well, we don't have to, we can explain the background later. I move that, we have our consultant TRC conduct bacterial source tracking for E. coli in storm drain, identified as storm drain number 2. To identify the source of the E. coli contamination in the lake.
Good. All right, do we have a second?
Did we?
Yeah,
Sorry.
any discussion?
Yeah, are we mentioning in there that it's 5 times the limit? The existing,
I would suggest we put a chart together and show, because it's incremental, it went up and now it's back down, but it's always been above the threshold that the state, determines.
And would the cost of remediating that problem fall on the homeowner if it did turn out to be a, so it's not
Technically, yes.
gonna cost the town anything if it's
Technically,
on
yes.
private
Sure,
property?
Walter will say, the private property owner will.
Well, because they could, yeah, and, the health department could condemn that property, so.
but unless we find this out, unless we can prove it,
I know,
homeowner can just keep going and letting it start. So it's
it's been going for 2 years now,
That's what I
Yeah.
just said. We've been going on this for 2 years and we have this problem.
year and a half.
Then what if, just to, so what if it turns out it's not a faulty septic system and it's horse manure up from the farm, up the hill, getting into the water that comes down, so that's their issue.
The farms.
The
No, that
farmers
might- that
issue?
might be ours, because we'd have to see the path and then see if we could somehow put up some type of
Yeah.
dam
Yeah,
type thing.
we're speculating on.
Exactly.
We can't-
The
No, I-
unknown of the unknown.
I
So
don't, I'm
that's-
only asking like, is it, there's some cost to the town that could be associated with remediating this problem, depending on what it turns out to be. Obviously, if it's faulty septic system, that's not on us, but if it's something else where it could involve need
We don't know.
DPW to do something, I don't know. Anyway, we don't know what that would cost anyway, so.
Okay, so are we adjusting the motion? Okay.
Motion to is, which ones does that include?
It's-
1.3.
Oh, I'm sorry, task 1.3, bacteria source tracking. It's the next step. Identify if it's a septic system or animal farming. He's leaning. Our consultant is suggesting it's
All
probably.
right. Is the discussion closed? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? You have a question?
I was just curious, what storm drain is number 2?
It's on Erdoney Road. Near Utley Pond, near Utley Pond in Athens.
Yeah.
Choosing not to identify the owners of the property
Okay. Right now, pretty cool.
unless something happens.
Okay.
They call number 2 though, yeah.
Yeah.
That's me too.
Who second, who second? Yeah,
Right.
We don't need, Dave, we haven't heard from Dave spoke, does it matter? Yeah, it does, if he's. Staying.
Dave, did you vote on any of these?
Your numbers for the.
And we didn't hear you.
Yes, I voted. Yes, I voted
You
for him.
yes on all of them?
Okay, good.
Yes,
Okay, thank you. Cool. All right, moving on, fishing. Any,
Nice.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of ice fishing.
all right.
They're happy out there.
I saw one guy pull a pretty good time back.
Really? You got it through his whole.
Yeah.
Nice. Access safety regulations, anything,
Nothing.
okay, watershed management plan. All right, stormwater runoff infrastructure, I think
I think
we
we just discussed
kind
that.
of talked about that, yes.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, is there any plan afoot to update the watershed management plan? Based on all this, there's so many. It could all be contained under that umbrella, and that is so outdated.
Yeah.
It's out on our on the town's website, and whoa, it's an ancient document.
Yeah. When was the last version of that? I can't remember.
90 something?
I think
Yeah.
98.
So the answer to your question very directly is no, but it certainly you bring up an interesting point. We can put it under open business just to review, but I think we've got a lot more immediate things for sure. But I appreciate the question and suggestion, I think, so,
Come under.
If I may,
yeah.
what we're working on in terms of the priority issues really has come out of the 1998 watershed management.
Mhm.
That was not only Chip Schifrin, but the consultant put that together also.
Yeah,
And had a very heavy hand in that. We would probably have to outsource if we really wanted.
yeah,
But if you look at that plan, the things we're working on, that plan suggested, we went to the low hanging fruit called nutrient allocation. But
Yeah.
these are the higher hanging fruit now, stormwater drainage, phosphorus issues,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
as always.
Is TRC even reviewed that?
He hasn't, he has all the data from
Yeah.
them, and they've done some comparative analysis. First year they were here. To include it in, the lab testing that, or the water quality testing that we do now.
Okay,
With-
It just, if I could expand, I appreciate that a lot of, that it has absolutely influenced the work of the committee. But as we're thinking about the E. coli and other levels that we're seeing in the lake rising, we're talking about potential requests for further allocation, not this fiscal year, but next year. Why don't we have our ducks in order in the most comprehensive way possible? And is there a way of using this as a key umbrella and a time to kind of pull it all together?
I mean,
Here's why we're asking this, the lake is struggling.
yeah, I mean, we're certainly, like I said, we're certainly open to it. But if we had to spend $20,000 updating the watershed management plan or spend extra money on testing right now, I think, you know.
Why not do both?
Well, so on that point.
Just saying,
But
Yeah.
is this the kind of thing that TRC could help us with?
that's what I'm wondering.
Because at least we could get a quotation for that.
We could get a quote.
Hand the
Yeah,
plan
we could get a quote.
with all the data that they have,
We
and say,
could,
what would it cost to
there's
update it?
nothing wrong to,
At least we know what the
Yeah.
figure is.
Those updates.
that was sort of why I asked if they had read it.
So those updates don't help us for the state roads though, do they? The state doesn't follow those, or even if the state doesn't follow our guidelines for the state catch basins.
I don't know what the state does.
Yeah, I mean, we have no control.
Yeah, that would, I think, muddy the waters. I think what's being suggested is we should look at that plan and how much is needed to update it, because there are two major things that plan looked at: stormwater drainage that we put on hold and septic systems that we put on hold.
Yeah.
And the first time I joined 10 years ago, Henry came to me and said, will you do this in terms of septic systems? And everybody went, well, we don't want to do it. We don't want to insist on pumping it every year, or whatever is needed.
Yeah.
So we tabled it. But
Well, there was an initiative, and I can't remember, it was. Sounds about 10 years ago, could be
Yeah.
longer, but there was an initiative at one point to, educate people about the, septic systems, but, it's at the end of the day, until you make it an ordinance, it's a suggestion, and.
I think it was very made back in the eighties, and I remember them talking about it in the seventies, about pumping the septic tanks every 3 years.
Yeah.
Right, but one of the biggest problems with that was, how do you enforce that? I mean,
Well, that's what I'm saying, it has to be.
They actually went after the septic pumpers and tried to put it on them
Yeah.
to actually turn over their reports,
Filing report.
and that got pretty testy.
I'm sure it did, yes.
You know, so it was a
I
very,
lived through it in East Haddam, it was horrible.
Pardon me?
I lived through it in East Haddam, we passed an ordinance
Oh,
requiring a pump out certificate. Each homeowner had to apply for one separate from paying for the pump out. That's what caused the furor. They'd be happy to include it in the pump out. But it was a separate permit you had to take out, like a permit to build a shed.
Yeah.
And the homeowners lost their minds in East Hampton.
Yeah.
Cause it just was one more bureaucratic step for something they were already doing. But, and then
but the other thing
trying to
is,
track that data was very difficult.
right, track the data, but the other thing was, they actually went after the pumpers themselves and tried to require them to give information on all the
A
homeowners.
report card of the septic
Yes.
system.
Oh.
Whole part of
Now
that
to the town.
and if they haven't done those houses. And it just got.
oh, that's ugly.
I get my own little report every year. I don't know if I
It
want
was
to.
horrible. I don't wanna live through it again.
Yeah.
I just think most people do it.
But I think.
going on there.
Wait till I retire. Get a lot, launch that ordinance.
Back to Judy's point, I do think it would be
Well,
worthwhile
we
to
can
get a quote.
Absolutely.
So as
Absolutely.
liaison to
Absolutely.
TRC, reach out,
You
copy
could.
you on the email. and
Thank you.
We'll work.
I'm
on it.
kind
Thank
of-
So you're gonna request that, Mary?
Yeah,
Okay, you don't.
yeah, so.
And I'll
thank you.
copy you guys on the email, so that we're all in the loop.
Yep.
And
No,
we'll
that'd be
report
great.
out next March,
That's very,
next meeting.
that's a very fair ask. and
Beauty was still.
Well, let's get
it
out.
What are you gonna ask them to do?
We're gonna ask TRC to review the 1998 watershed management plan and provide recommendations and quotes for updating.
He's at 5,000.
He may want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, cause it may be a little less, I mean, cause. You know, what's there probably doesn't need much for modification. And he's already done the work on the other issues, so it may be, cut and paste.
Right.
So,
So,
yeah,
register first.
Yes.
throw it in,
Let's see.
throw it in.
Thank you.
Hi, can I speak? Hello? Can I speak? Yes? Can I speak?
Please.
Okay. Rather than outsource this review of the nutrient allocation load and watershed, which may be very expensive, both our CEO and our town planner have the expertise to do that. Would it be cost effective to do that in-house? And actually, the town planner mentioned to me that he was going to take a look at that because planning and zoning had asked him to. Have
We
you?
can certainly ask Ann, we're still gonna get a quote just to understand what that looks like from TRC, because they've, I think, already done a lot of the work. But as well, we can.
I'll talk to the planner.
Talk to the planner. Okay.
Thanks, Ian. I'll
Thank you,
talk to
Ian.
John.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, stormwater runoff infrastructure, I think. Yeah, budget.
I think we just reviewed it.
Just get it on. Unless there's any other budget.
That's what I was gonna say.
Well, right now,
Yeah,
in your budget, you also carry 1,000 for postage, 1,000 for general supplies, and 1,200 for printing. Since you normally don't hit those items, maybe we roll that up into professional tech and just.
just let's all put that in the, in the.
They will forfeit that.
Well, I was gonna say, put that in, our concession to, the additional
Right,
amounts.
usually don't spend it.
What is left, we still have 2 more field visits, April, May.
I didn't talk about professional
Okay.
tech, I'm just talking about these other items.
Okay.
Not
I
the
see.
8,700 sitting there on
Okay.
professional tech, the 1,000 and 1,200.
But I do have an expense report of posters to give to Jennifer, so.
So maybe leave some
Bucks in there.
$500 in your supply line.
It was 298.
Well,
Help, so that could be part of the recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it should be, I think, I don't know the last time we spent.
What do you think you need for supplies, Mary?
But however, if we're gonna do an education brochure and hand it out with our new town ordinance at boat launch, we may need some funds to outsource that to have somebody do it for us.
These damn stickers.
Unless
Well-
Jennifer's gonna do it, not the
We can-
stickers, more, what's the ordinance and whatever our ordinance says, invasive species.
Print basic flyers or something.
Yeah, I mean,
Unless you.
yeah, we've got,
I keep printing
I mean, we can keep the printing, but we can still easily give up the,
Stamps and
postage. There's 2,000 in there that we can easily give up
yeah.
Right,
and put in professional tech. Yeah, I mean, I guess we could do that,
so of the 3,200,
give up two.
2,000 for professional
Yep.
tech.
Yep.
there any equipment to the lake or any capital expenses that would be needed? Not,
No,
No,
the patrol.
we had a placeholder,
Okay,
we had a placeholder at one point, for 5,000, I think. That last line there, 811.
Yes. at one point.
At one point, and then things kind of changed, so I think we already kind of gave that up, right?
Are you good on beach patrol?
Well, right now, yes, but it sure would be nice to pay $2,000 and buy a aluminum boat with a motor, the used aluminum boat for Goose Patrol.
For what?
oh, goose
We
patrol.
need at least two out there. I mean, I was gonna get into that, you know, when that item comes up, but in the budget, I'm not proposing, I'm just throwing it out there, is that it's hard to get in this time of year, the boats that can go on the lake when there's no ice. But
Well, that,
if there's extra money,
that money that's in this budget we're in now.
yeah,
So you have money you could reallocate.
Yeah.
Towards your expenses.
And that's good till July, right?
Right, that's good till June 30th.
Mhm.
It gives you time.
Yeah.
to Look for a
John,
some nice uniforms.
bargain of.
with big piece on the back of the
Something,
necks.
you know, you think about even for next year.
There might be someone on the lake just waiting to donate that old rowboat that's been in the back of the lot.
I've been asking, it's a challenge and, but anyway,
Okay, we're good.
You don't have use of it.
yeah.
Okay,
And
hydrilla, where are we at with hydrilla?
$2,000 seems to be.
And class B pondweed, that we had those as open items, no. Nothing,
I have nothing to report.
yeah,
We know where it is, we know why, well, hydrilla will be the because we're gonna do the invasive species infection, I think kind
Yeah.
of what was in that.
Yeah.
Glassing pottery, we know where it is. We have a recommendation as to when to start to take it out. If people want, to, we have to discuss, are we gonna, people will be allowed to rake it.
Yeah.
And the time frame would be April, well, Carl is now saying more May and June.
okay,
So,
all right, we'll leave them still open. East mitigation task force,
Right, so I've been away, the lake's iced over, what I was planning on doing late, the end of this month, because I'm going away again, is to do like a Zoom meeting with the patrollees. And just kind of talk about the plan for the, you know, the water portion of moving them off the lake. Find out what boats are available, we had your boat, which we appreciate.
Yep.
And then we
Always
had
available.
Henry's motor with, Jim Price's boat.
Yeah.
But then Jim Price's boat got a leak, so they were trying to figure that out.
okay,
And then we're gonna try to marry them together, but, that, you know, I've asked a lot of people, you know, maybe Santa or whatever, to bring you a boat for your, wouldn't you like to have one, but, you know, that's why I was thinking it'd be nice to. I don't know if the town would want to maintain it or not, I mean, I don't have a place on the lake, but we would wanna keep it at one of, like, Mike's house or something.
yeah.
We could keep it.
Or,
Well, yeah, or, you know,
I'm
town has a boathouse, you know, beach.
Yeah, but you only need that boat when the lake is low,
Yeah,
right? When the lake's up, we can all use our regular boats.
I got it,
But so it got to go up on the shoreline,
oh,
got it.
you know, and if you put it up by the boathouse, it's naked for vandalism and stuff.
Got it. Okay,
So anyway, I was gonna kind of do a kind of a game plan, get everybody together, it's been a couple months, and when, you know, see who's available and who wants to participate this year. See what boats are available. And then, kind of parlay that into the Adeline.
well, yeah,
Park, and then, The other thing I was thinking was when the lake comes up, and we don't have to discuss it tonight, but something to ponder. Is when they have babies, hopefully we won't have any, but when the little ones come. We can't go scaring them away, but if there are families that don't have them. And like there's adults away from the little ones, are we gonna go after those? Or is it just total shutdown through June? You know, whenever, you know, they
That's a good point.
pledge. So it's something to ponder, we don't have to decide tonight, but my thinking would be. Trained Goose Patrol people. Can make that judgment, you know, you gotta be 100 yards away or set some kind of guideline for don't touch, don't harass the babies to make sure that the parents just haven't wandered off. You know?
Yeah, don't go far, I know.
Yeah, right, so if they're a couple 100 yards away, they should be fair game and we can get rid of them.
Makes sense.
And then the last thing, I know Frank's down there. Looking for someone that has a dog that could run on the beach that wouldn't eat the geese. You know what I mean? Not go after and strangle them, just bark, bark, bark. Because what we found was, a lot of the lake bed is muddy. And you can't, people walking can't go through all that stuff. But you don't have to get too close to them before they go out into the water and then we can scare them away. So a dog or two that would behave enough where we wouldn't be harming or wouldn't be tempted to go eat, you know, grab one. I don't know if your dog is like that. but-
I'll check with his agent.
Yeah.
Good use, though.
Yeah.
It's a good idea. It works wonders for our shore.
Yeah, okay, so it's got some experience, so that helps the price.
Yeah, that's fine.
More bump,
Can you
more
get them over to us?
biscuits.
Okay, well, that's great, yep, go.
Just to add, I think the water portion, we have a what? Go ahead.
It would be something.
Choked on. Oh, here. It's the non-water portion. We have to find the egg gatherers. We have to find where these geese are. Mark, can we get, if we give you certain names of people who live in areas, that we can get a letter to them for permission for one or two people, well, 2 or 3 people in the next, go out there. Because you can't access. And I believe they were all Utley Pond, and I think if you access through West Road there, you can't access Utley Pond because it's too mucky. And literally, it's like quicksand. If you step in it, you're never gonna get out of it. We can't even get kayaks up there. So if we could access private properties and find those geese and out of those eggs, we could minimize
Right.
what's gonna happen in the water. So, I'd like to suggest if we can look at a map and say, these are the properties and ask for their permission, then we have people, volunteers, ready to go, who will go in, search for those and add them the eggs appropriately. If we don't do that, we're gonna have them late.
And that needs to be in March.
It starts in March, but they went right through almost the end of May into June last year. I don't know if they started late or what, but, 2 years ago, when I put a kayak in Utley and went, I could hear them, that was in April. But I couldn't get to them. I had my oil and everything ready to go. So I think we have to access through private properties. And when we should make that initiative now,
Yeah.
so that in March, you're ready to go in. So, Mark, if you could help us with that.
She hiked in with a 40-pound kayak on her back. It's crazy.
That's when I was younger and had muscles.
That's you.
Do I say birds of a feather? I mean, All right, it gets used on me all the time. Okay, so, all right, so you can look into that?
Yeah.
Okay. And, gate key, where,
I believe that's gonna be in the town ordinance.
is that, okay,
Is that-
Has any decision been made? Are they doing it this year or not?
I have not heard anything positive that it's going to continue.
It's gonna change.
it's very diplomatic of you.
Are you 99.9% positive?
I'm convinced that our first selectman is not in favor.
Not in favor of a gatekeep? Yes,
Yeah, he's said that in a couple of different
yeah.
forms.
Okay,
But
do you, I mean, does it need to
where to
stay
go
on,
from there?
does it need to stay on our agenda or?
Well, it,
What, yeah,
I think you might have to decide. Is it just there is no gate key and there is only access during, rain patrol? Or is there any other? Well,
That, yeah, so we should keep it open, I think, Mike, and talk about, what are we gonna do for fishermen who wanna come early, because we know they made a big fuss
Yep.
about this before, and
But they-
rightfully so, I mean, they want.
But.
Are you selectmen?
So yes, they did make a big stink about it, but they were the worst offenders. So,
admitting they won't clean the boat.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, so
so
they're probably the biggest risk.
they're our biggest risk,
Yeah.
they're our biggest offenders. And here we are talking about, 40, 50, 70, $400,000, I
Yeah.
mean, so.
Fair point.
We've gotta balance, weigh the risks and the rewards, so. And as I like to say, when appropriate, we're a small town, we don't have a metropolitan budget to throw at 24-hour gate access or whatever that may look like, or automated, whatever. I mean, we're a small town, this is where we live, this is where we choose to live, so, with that comes great benefit, but also comes some compromise, so.
I think if you were to say to the Board of Selectmen, if you get a hydro in this lake, here's what it's gonna cost you.
Yeah.
The gatekeep program would become minimal and we'd have to put up with lots of things.
Fishermen are gonna say,
Yeah.
well, what about the birds and, their animals?
That's fine.
We're not the only,
But we know we're
That's
the
true.
main
double
source.
that.
Human beings are the main source of
Yeah.
so many things.
Yeah. And this is a, first world problem.
Yeah.
So.
Should we be giving, has LMAC given the first selectman, a recommendation?
We've spoken with them about it, but they have not asked us for a recommendation, and so there's nothing to do at this point.
I think we stay out of it right now.
Yeah, we gave them the recommendation last year. Right?
Yes,
It's two phase.
Yeah.
Start with better monitoring
Yeah.
and reports and then get an automated system.
All right, well, let's, one thing at a time. Well, I'm just saying, are we gonna, okay, I'm gonna go back to, are we gonna spend an extra $20,000 on some sort of gate, automation thing, or are we gonna spend it on the health of the water?
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna tell you that my guess is that the budget is, we have constraints. We're not gonna go to the town and say, oh, can we have an extra $100,000 because we'd like to do this, that, and the other thing, and but either way. We'll just keep it open from now.
Would that be out of our budget? The
What?
automated card gate thing would be out of LMAC's budget, or would be under the town's, right?
BP facilities.
Yeah, well, and
But
that's no different, that's no different than.
Marine patrol is not in your budget.
Right.
Right, well, fair enough, no, but I'm saying an automated gate, it would close, the problem is they open it and they don't close it. And they don't watch their boats, there's no, so,
Just talking about money,
yeah, no, it's not. I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna, let's say I'm 99% sure it's not in the budget. All right, boat launch, west side area, no progress at this point.
No,
Oh, there's progress.
yeah,
Yeah, we have commitment from our employees to fix it.
Great. A deck or?
No, it's gonna be pavers.
Pavers, fantastic.
he's gonna clean it up, flatten it out, grade it, and put some pavers in. See what happens.
Couldn't ask for anything more. Fantastic.
We're waiting for things to follow.
Now, since it's not here, but it was all related to the boat launch stuff we were working on, we had talked about the markers.
I have not gotten a clear direction of what.
Yeah.
Okay,
I thought we resolved that in.
I thought we did.
I
Well-
was told differently by Henry.
Yeah, Henry was nervous
Henry
about
is adamant that we can only put up a crappy old highway can.
replace as is.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But if you guys are fine, then that's. what
It used to be a pole, so that was an upgrade. Oh, we got the can.
So,
But he just doesn't wanna do anything differently and have,
no, that was because of the work we're doing with the state, right?
well,
He didn't
we're in the
wanna
middle of
complicate that.
ordinance revision.
What work-
Temporary was just to replace the cans as is with new
It's
ones.
fine.
Okay,
And then get white, official, real markers once they sort through all the ordinances. that
Ordinance
we're
stuff.
working
Okay.
on, Right?
Okay,
But
okay,
the town came back and said, I don't wanna do it twice. What do you wanna do?
Well, we'd like to buy the proper.
Proper thing, but then Henry said no.
Rock pile. But Henry wasn't comfortable with
so I guess we got what we got.
that. Right, so if LMAC is happy with upside down traffic cans, that's what I'll stick out there.
Well, can we get new ones?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
it'll be new,
Good. Oh, there you go, a new traffic can.
new. Upside down.
They're a little
traffic cans.
faded and they're.
Yeah, they're faded.
Well, they're about to, the one by you guys is gonna fall apart.
Yeah.
And that's the one that's really,
alright, well, let's start there and we'll.
Okay,
and then there was one other thing we talked about, because of new marker going off of
Right,
that,
point.
point, I forget the. It's
By Mike Harding.
Harding's, right?
Yeah.
There's that rock that's exposed now up by the pile, we were gonna talk about moving that. While it's frozen, can you see if from your house, if that rock is up above the ice, and maybe we can, a couple of pry bars, throw it on the ice and slide it out?
oh my God,
Because we're
Yeah,
funneling the traffic over now,
Right.
right, with the marker, and then that rock is sitting there.
oh jeez.
Take a look at it.
Yeah,
You should be able to do that.
In
You
front
still walk out of the ice.
yeah, I just don't know how far we have to flip it, if it's flippable,
There's a big.
I got a big heavy, bar,
I mean, we should go out and look at
yeah,
it.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Have fun.
Alright,
I only carried 40 pounds.
and just,
Center boards will hit it.
yeah. Okay, and any ordinance revision updates, we're gonna just,
We initiated the process,
okay,
which means Mark delegated to someone on LMAC. We're working on
We can set up a meeting.
fair enough. Okay, with that said, any other business tonight? No, someone's packing up over here, so I'm gonna take that as no. I'll entertain a motion
it.
to
To adjourn.
adjourn. Do we have a second? Oh, we have a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Let's wrap it up. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
I have 2 boat keys left, does anybody want one?